to be?
Yeah.
What's going to happen if this happens? Because they live in freaking San Diego. I mean, my dad calls and says 70 degrees and sunny and hangs up the phone. And so so the idea of hanging out with me in northern New England, or my brother lives in DC. They're close to both those things. But
it's a funny thing to work your life kind of backwards of like where's your last place to just plant a flag.
Yeah.
And figure out this will be where, I don't move anymore. So it's kind of,
but I do think that more and more the children of older folks are going to have to get serious about how that works, because it gets more complicated, I think.
Oh yeah.
And so you should have those conversations with your parents. You really should. Okay. I had that conversation with my daughter. She did not initiate it. Well, she was yelling and screaming about, 80 miles away and the problems that would entail. But
because it's too far.
I would have moved back years ago. Diane was not really interested, and she loves the house we were in.
Yeah,
I do too. But this'll do fine. I'm okay.
The pictures were lovely. You had the birthday party for Diane. It was great.
Yeah. Well, we had a birthday party the same day they had a St. Patty's Day parade. So I basically said the town was welcoming her back.
There you go. There we are.
Good for her to come back. Yeah, she probably wasn't buying it, but humored you nonetheless. Yeah. All right. Were you guys you ready to kind of jump in here and get going?
You got it.
All right, let's do it.
Welcome to the CXR channel, our premier podcast for talent acquisition and talent management. Listen in as the CXR community discusses a wide range of topics focused on attracting, engaging, and retaining the best talent. We're glad you're here.
All right. Good morning, afternoon, whenever you're listening. Hello, my name is Chris Hoyt. I am the host for the next 20 minutes on the Recruiting Community Podcast. And I am going to bring in my partner in crime here, Mr. Crispin. There he is. Good morning, Mr. Crispin.
Good morning.
We are both dialed in from different places today. Yes. So I'm on the road and you are wrapping up a reload.
I am. I'm 80 miles from where I normally live, and now I'm living, in the North Shore of Long Island in New York.
I love that. Well, that is not the only change that we've got going on. Before we bring the guest in today, which I'm excited to welcome him back to the show and chat him up, I thought you and I could just chat for just a minute about the new Community Up outreach that we're doing. You want to chat that up for a second?
Yeah, it's, I'm actually excited by the interviews. Part of it is there was a tremendous response when we said, look, if you're a leader in transition, particularly if you're a member, but there are if you're sponsored by a member and in transition, we'll let you be a member of Career Crossroads, of our community for that period of time, because it gives you the opportunity to engage in building your network beyond a network to a more of a community issue. And fundamentally, I've had some incredible conversations with some really great leaders that I had not met before, and a few folks who at some point probably will get there. They may not be ready for our community yet, but we're interviewing everybody who expressed an interest.
100%. And it's kind of interesting. So for those who aren't aware, cxr.work/up. And Jerry and I were talking about this. I guess we've been talking about it for months, but we pulled the trigger a few weeks ago and just said, I think just 2 weeks ago, where we said, if you're in transition, if you've been displaced and you are alumni of CXR, or you are referred by alumni of CXR, either current or past, right? Who've been, we will interview you for a full-blown membership. And no limitations. You get a full membership there. So that's all the meetings, the lectures, the classes, you name it, even the live meetings. And we have had almost 200 applicants fill those out, and some in true recruiter fashion. And I love the recruiters, right? I mean, we are good people, but some of them halfway filled out the application, and it's not a complicated application. It's like 6 fields. This is not a stretch for Mensa. These are super easy. Like, put your LinkedIn URL in here. Who do you know that is sort of referring you, and that sort of thing. But it's 100% return.
And I got 5 or 6 of these a day.
I have 3 today. I have 3 later today.
So I feel almost like I'm a recruiter again. And to be honest, and I think we should be fully transparent here, not everybody's getting a yes. Yep. But the feedback is clear. At least they're telling me it is when I'm saying we can't really go forward with you right now.
Yeah.
Because there's some things that you really need to be able to do in order to take advantage of it. The level of engagement that you have to have with other leaders is part of this deal. Yep.
Yeah. So I encourage everybody to check it out. You're going to end up on our calendars if you apply. I promise. We're going to get back to you. Everybody's going to get something back. But that's 6 interviews today. I had a couple yesterday. I had to move some things with travel, but we're getting through all of those, and I'm super excited about it. What I'm also super excited about is to welcome back Mr. Forman. So let's bring him in out of the green room. There he is.
Hey, boys. How are you?
Nice to have you back.
Same. Thanks for having me. And I think the CXR Up, this is the first I heard about it. I think that's a great idea. We'd be happy to support you in whatever way we can to allow you to bring more of those folks on in. I think that's super.
Great. Well, thanks. Well, we'll happily take you up on that. That's exciting. Yep. It's good stuff. It is nice to meet some new folks who've been in the space for a while and we haven't had a chance to connect with. And we get a hit from leaders we haven't spoken in a while who said, "Oh my God, I love this. I have the perfect person that would benefit from this because, it worked for me and it was helpful for me and that sort of thing." So we love it. It's good stuff.
Cool.
Well, Chris, so we're going to talk about pay per application. Today. So a little cost per application chat today. And you are the man with some of the data to talk about this. And you've been in the space for a while. But for those who don't know you, why don't you go ahead? I'm going to give you that full screen treatment. And why don't you go ahead and tell everybody who you are? Give us sort of the escalator pitch of who is Chris Forman.
Sure. Well, thanks so much, Chris and Jerry, again, for having me back. My name's Chris. I've spent the last 25 years in the recruitment technology space, building and growing companies because I am structurally unemployable. If I filled out that form for CXR Up, I'd probably be denied because I throw the toys out of the pram on a regular basis. Most recently, and this will be my capstone gig here after Appcast, I'm done. I'm the founder and CEO of Appcast, which is part of Stepstone, the 3rd largest jobs business in the world. And we build software that helps large enterprise employers buy and optimize pay for performance job ads. We're about 400 people. And right now it's a snow day in Meriden, New Hampshire. So Sarah is, I think, making brownies in the kitchen and from home. So anyway, that's me. Thanks for having me.
Love that. Spring break, snowing, brownies.
There you go. There you
Chris
go.
is living the dream. Yeah. Well, okay. So we were just talking for who may not have come in right on time. We were chatting up where we end up with from a home standpoint, but it's an interesting statement, Chris, where you're talking about, this is kind of my gig. Mm-hmm. This is my rap. This is my gig. This is the big thing that I do until I just don't do it anymore.
Yeah, no. I'm definitely, the runway lights are on. One of the great things that I've enjoyed over my career is working with and watching unbelievable young talent develop from X into 10X. And happily, there's a cohort of brilliantly smart people at Appcast, and also in our industry. It's their turn. They're gonna go build companies. They're gonna go run organizations. They're gonna join CXR, and so I'm enjoying doing what I'm doing right now. But somebody else is gonna build the next company.
Cool. Love that. I love that. Well, so talk to us a little bit. There've been a lot of changes in the market in the last number of months, most notably from a cost per application versus cost per click. There've been some shifts sort of in the space. Is there anything you call it? I mean, we all know that last October there was an announcement from Indeed that they were going to sort of shift that model a little bit. And that kicked in. Some people were caught supposedly unaware, right? They hadn't been keeping up maybe in their in-mails or their emails and didn't get the notice or said they didn't get it. So they got a big bill at the end of it. I think Indeed made that right on the side of that, right? From a communication standpoint, making it right with everybody. But now we've got some mid-sized organizations and TA leaders kind of wondering, well, what does this mean for me? Like, do I stick with this cost per application piece? Do I need to actually hone in on what really is an application for me when it's a click to a completion, and how do I track that? How do I cap that? As if I'm sitting with you, and I guess I am, Chris, if I'm sitting with you and asking as a TA leader, what do I need to know about this to sort of still go back to feeling warm and fuzzy about the work that my team does in the candidate flow? What would you tell me that I need to know?
Yeah. So first off, I think pricing model, whether you pay for a duration-based posting, you pay for a click, you pay for an application start, you pay for a completed application, or someday theoretically paying for something further down the line. There's upsides and downsides to every pricing model. It's just a pricing model. So, like this isn't putting a man on the moon, or we were talking about Elon Musk earlier and boring, kind of holes underneath the earth so people can avoid traffic. It ain't that complex. Okay. So the key thing is to understand, to instrument your recruitment funnel really, really well. If the funnel is instrumented, you're going to be able to buy, kind of eyeballs, in essence, active job seekers in a whole variety of ways.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to work out no matter what. So what does instrumentation actually mean to me? You should be able to track the impression of where the job seeker actually sees your ad.
Mm-hmm.
You need to know what ad that is. You need to be able to see from the impression, the click. From the click, you need to be able to see if they start the application. If they start the application, you need to see if they finish it. If they finish it, you need to be able to track it to whether or not it was somebody that you wanted to talk to. There was a quality application. And then lastly, you got to track to whether or not you actually hire this person. Yeah. If you do that, here's a dirty little secret. There's good job seeker traffic in our marketplace, and there's bad job seeker traffic. Good and bad is not there good people and bad people, felons and non-felons. Mm-hmm. We're talking about people that you want to hire and are actually going to, kind of complete the application, and folks that won't. And sometimes the folks that won't are fraudulent. Sometimes the folks that won't just, are incented to click on things because somebody else is making money, but it's not necessarily solving your problems. But if you have that instrumentation, you're going to win. And you're going to win by you buying the good stuff and let, the knucklehead next to you buy the stuff that isn't any good. And that honestly, right there is a 30% improvement in your return on investment. And of course, now we can drill down and we can talk about how you use that information and buy smartly for, let's say, one-to-one corporate jobs versus high volume jobs versus
Mm-hmm.
evergreen jobs versus, pacing. But again, it's not putting a man on the moon. Now, the reason why a lot of the idea of paying per application is a Warshot test. There are some people that don't like it, and there are some people that do like it. So let's talk about the people that like it are the people that typically buy travel insurance when you book an airplane ticket. They're the people that do that like HMOs, with no deductibles. Okay. So it's a safer model in that you only pay when somebody actually fills out the application.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it may not be a good application, it may not be somebody that you hire, but it is significantly closer to an event. At Appcast, we like to say you can't hire a click, but you can hire an applicant. It's significantly further down, and the billable event is something that you can actually look at, right? Now, the people that don't buy, prefer not to buy applications, but let's say prefer to buy typically the next pay for performance level up, which is a click. Nobody really wants to buy postings anymore. But on the click side, if you are very good and very sharp and you're a marketer, you can figure out probably how to squeeze out more value out of buying per click. But to do that, you need to really understand what you're doing. You typically need to have software to do it. It's a much more complex environment to operate with it.
Mm-hmm.
So these are the folks that, in the old days, the way that you'd save on the airline ticket is you would buy, if you end up going to, let's say, to San Francisco all the time, you buy the ticket on out and the return 3 weeks later. And then on the way back, you book a different ticket. And then you have ends that you don't use, but you got the 3-week price, even if you're booking it at the last minute.
Yeah.
That's that type of group. So, so broadly speaking, more effort, more risk, more complexity provides the ability to generate in some cases materially more or mildly more performance. While when you're buying per application, it's just a lot more straightforward.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Jerry.
As you're going to say, as you're talking, you can almost picture in that funnel each of the touch points that you mentioned.
Yep.
And how critical each one is, particularly from what is the yield I'm getting from that,
mm-hmm.
and what portion of that yield actually moves into the next, touch point. And then you start to look at the quality of each throughput, if you will. There's I think a psychological change that takes place when the person who's gone through this funnel actually presses submit, because their view of themselves changes from someone who might have been interested to someone who has actually demonstrated interest in a job.
Yes.
And that is the point at which they believe they've become a candidate.
Yes.
And so we can also alter our reaction to each of those touch points in terms of how we respond to that, from an automatic point of view to something that's going to have to be a little bit more experiential in terms of how we treat them.
Mm-hmm. Yep. No, that's definitely true. And in a previous world, I spent a lot more time thinking about, kind of job seekers and how to talk to them, after the application complete. In this world, I'm all about the top end.
Yep.
The bottom end is now a black box. What's super interesting though is, like, if you get the instrumentation that I talked about, and it's rare to be able to get all of that, especially with some of the major sites, it's much more of, a black box. Like, you put in your budget, you don't have bidding, you pay at a different level. But
well, I was going to say, Chris, sorry to interrupt you, but I was going to say that it sounds easy, but there are just so many organizations who can't get there, can't get that level of tracking in at all.
No, and it's super hard. And there's a lot of not self-interest. A lot of secular issues in the recruitment tech stack that make it hard.
Yeah.
So to be able to do that instrumentation, you need to be able to take information that starts, let's say, on a job site, and transfer that into an applicant tracking system. And then you need to get it back from an applicant tracking system and put it back into your ads, track. Again, the technology is super simple. It's called a click tag, where at every point in time, there's a little alphanumeric that gets passed from one person to another. And what you need to do is you need to have that go into your ATS. Click tag, did somebody apply? Whatever status in the ATS you've got that is quality, tell me when it hits there and tell me when you hire them.
Yep.
I love it.
Yeah. Oh, did we lose him?
Nope.
There he goes. There he is.
Oh, I'm back. All right. Sorry about that. I guess snowstorms. But so it's hard to do, but it's not complex. But when you do it, it is so powerful. So, like, Jerry, you were talking about how you understand where somebody comes from when they apply. You can understand how to treat them differently. Well, part of this also helps you understand which ad units are most valuable at the places that you're buying from. You may find for your retail jobs, and we actually know this, an apply from a job alert within a certain amount of time after the job immediately became available are the people that will respond at the highest level and also get hired at the highest level. Okay. Well, if you're in a white collar job, when we start to see multiple touch points, like, and this is when you get into something called multi-touch attribution. Yep. Oh, they saw this job on Indeed. They looked at something on Glassdoor. They went on over to ZipRecruiter, and then finally they applied from LinkedIn. Now, all of a sudden, we can see correlations between that type of window shopping, whether or not. So it's super interesting, and we could spend hours talking about it. But I think the key thing, forget about how you buy, there's upsides and downsides to both sides. The most important thing to do, whether you're buying per click or you're buying per application, is to endeavor to pay appropriately for what you want. And there's this really interesting, whenever I sit down with members of CXR or our other clients, they're like, what the hell are you talking about? Isn't cheaper better? And I'm like, well, in some cases it is, but in some cases it isn't. And they're like, well, explain that to me. I said, well, what is your objective when you're trying to get an application? I would argue that there's 4 different types of objectives that you may have. For jobs like, a TA leader, there's, I imagine, Jerry, because you're old as dirt, you've written at least a couple of articles about this, like the cost of having that position open, right? Massive, right?
Yeah.
So what if I came to you and I said, you pay me, the market going rate for, let's say, a director of TA is $25 an apply, just making this up, okay? But what if I came to you and I said, I can deliver you all the applies you need within 48 hours of the job going live, but you have to pay me $100 per apply.
Right.
Which one makes more sense? I would argue the $100 per apply, because if you take a look at, if you can bring in time to hire by 10 days, spending a couple grand on applies is like rounding errors.
Chris, the perfect example of that is maybe not the TA leader, but any sales territory.
Yeah.
You can see the declination of sales when it's empty.
Store manager.
And you can see how that slope continues the longer it's empty.
Right.
And the cost of that just adds up into huge numbers. And so fundamentally, the smartest companies always have a salesperson in the wings to throw in in order to plug that gap. Otherwise, the cost of coming back up is just as hard after it's gone down. So yeah, it's a cool issue. You pay a fortune, to do something like that very quickly.
So pay for speed. Right. I mean, and that's a huge thing, but like all of a sudden when we start talking about it, the light bulb goes up. Oh, you mean measuring my cost per hire and saying, I want to have a lower cost per hire than I did last year is what I want? Well, in some cases, maybe, but in certain cases, I would argue, no, if in fact, the cost of having the lower cost per hire is an extension in the time to fill. And then you've also got, like there are certain jobs now in the blue collar space where, you're not hiring warehouse workers. You're not hiring restaurant workers. You're not hiring delivery people. You're hiring people that are willing to work in a set of situations for $18 an hour. Yeah. That's the market that you're recruiting from. And what's interesting is that market ebbs and flows based on a whole variety of reasons. Those reasons are all different based on geography and political environment that you're in and labor market environment. But again, whether you're paying per click or you're paying per apply, let's say you need 100 of these people a week. Well, if what you do is you bid the same that you did last week, you're going to end up paying the same per week. And some weeks you'll get what you want and some weeks you won't. But what's interesting is that if you are constantly monitoring your conversion rates. So let's say the week starts on Monday, you put a set of bids out that actually deliver a set of applications at a greater rate than you expected. You can actually decrease how much you pay very quickly and still glide to where you're going to get. Well, in other weeks where all of a sudden, let's say the box store next door is at $18.50.
Yeah.
And they're flooding the zone with all these ads, you may see it go way up because that's what you need to do. And you got to be okay with that. So again, this idea, we're finally at the point in recruitment marketing in certain elements of the market where like we're pricing labor. Like you can literally see in certain markets when certain things are being done appropriately, holy crap, it's just more expensive to recruit. Not because somebody's being a knucklehead, it's because it's actually more expensive to recruit that week.
Yeah.
And so, this whole thing is we've, as a, Chris, Jerry, you, me, John, like anybody who's been in this industry for a long time has talked about the professionalization of the marketing function within recruitment. We're now at a point where truly, if you're a big enough company, if you're good at this, it's $1 million.
Yeah.
Meaning either save productivity, lower cost, better outcomes.
Sure.
Like it's no longer kind of like, well, we're gonna have better colors and a nice employer value proposition, which, no matter what any executive says, that's really hard for them to measure. But if you say, hey, we can fill the funnel, we can get people hired faster, and we can do it for less money, that's something every CFO is going to love.
Yeah, I wonder how many folks though are making that sort of shift, because it's kind of funny to talk to some of the young leaders who are coming in and have these great ideas of, I mean, didn't we all, these great ideas of all the things we're going to fix and all the things we're going to change as we move into this. But oftentimes some of that stuff that's a little more difficult to track and set up just gets put on the back burner.
Yep. Yeah.
Like
It occurs to me that the emergence of recruiting operations. So having someone who has program experience, or that kind of thing, as well as the metrics and the analytics, fundamentally, I think has created an extraordinarily added value to TA when it's applied the way you were talking about it, Chris.
Yeah, no, it's true. And Chris and Jerry, what you're talking about is, I mean, it's near and dear to my heart. What I'm talking about is boring. It's math. I mean, like it's 10th grade algebra appropriately done every single day. But that's the beauty of boring, is that if you do it right, as I tell you sitting here, white middle-aged guy with gray hair, boring's my life, and you can do pretty okay in life being boring. And so, yeah.
Well, I'll steal a line from one of my favorite recruiters used to be on my team, as they came in and we were just starting to talk about this concept years ago. And she looked me dead in the eye and said, "I'm sorry, I was told there'd be no math."
Nope. Yeah.
Sorry, there's math. Sorry about that. Mrs. Payne, my 8th grade math teacher, I'm so sorry for being such a dick. I really should have been a better student in math class. I really should have. I apologize. Oh man. Well, Chris, let me ask you, and because we've asked you before, but we got a new topic today in the conversation. If you're gonna write a book about this topic, about what folks should know and sort of just this concept, what do you think you'd title that book?
Oh gosh. Why everyone should have a gold duck on their desk.
Why everyone should have a gold duck on their desk.
I like it.
There's a gold duck on my desk. And gold duck means something. So this was a present from my boss in Germany. And I think he gave me this present because I was going to kidnap this golden duck out of our office in Germany. We had our offices redone during COVID to incent everyone to come back on in. And they have these beautiful gold duck things that were on our big boardroom table, and nobody could see each other between these board meetings. And first off, I've never had a gold duck light. And so I thought that stealing one would be great. And two, I wanted to see my colleagues. But the reason why I'm telling the story is, one, it's a great metaphor, makes people stop and pick up a book if it's about having a gold duck. But the reason why there's a gold duck on my desk is the fact that math and thinking creatively is what built Appcast and what allowed us to be part of Stepstone. And again, I truly believe that recruitment is marketing, a little bit of art, and then incredibly good sales organization. And so if I were to write in the book, the metaphor here is that, recruitment should be a gold duck. We should be gold plated. And if we actually got treated like we were in sales and marketing, we would revolutionize the world. But anyway.
I think both Chris and I like that a lot for a couple reasons. We may steal some of this, Chris, but we have been for almost 20 years at every one of our meetings had an event in which we shared ducks. So of all kinds.
Yeah.
Ducks of all kinds. All right.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. 100%, hundreds of them at the meetings.
We just did a survey of our members going back into, our meetings, our face-to-face meetings, asking if we should bring back the ducks. And everyone said, you got to bring back the ducks. So we're going to be.
All right. Well, Gary, I next time I'm in Dusseldorf, Germany. So, Stepstone, big jobs classified business. We have this beautiful office in Dusseldorf. There's still a few gold ducks around that.
Take a picture.
I may smuggle a few back for you.
Steal one. Yes. That'd be great. I'd love that.
Yeah, I just ordered 150 more ducks and had them shipped. We're at IMG Academy next week. We're coming back to live events, so we're super excited about it. But I just had 150 little yellow ducks sent to IMG last week for the meeting.
I think we're going to build this into a whole myth, Chris.
There you go. It's all about the duck.
All right, Chris, who are you going to give your first signed copy to? And just, it can't be anybody on this podcast.
My dad.
Oh, I love that. I think you did that last time.
Yeah. No, so like my dad here, I've got a couple. My dad's written a couple books here. He's from the industry. Fearless HR actually was a top-selling business book in the United States for a while, and Fearless Talent Choices. So, like any good son, mildly in competition with my dad. So I have to, if I write a book, I got to give him the first copy.
And when was he? Do you remember when he was with Sherm? Because I think I was on Sherm's board when he was there.
Yeah, so he worked for them doing their certification stuff and
in the 90s, right?
No, it was in the 2000s. It was post 2008 because that's when we sold Ayers. Okay. He worked for the Human Capital Institute. He worked for Ayers, did our certifications at Ayers, and then did that for the Global SHRM certification program, and I think the one in the United States. But yeah. And now, Dave, his company's called Sage, and it's Sage World headquarters is the Forman garage in San Diego, California. So whenever I talk to him, I'm like, "Where are you?" He's like, "I'm in the world headquarters." So
I'll drive by there this week as I'm hanging out in San Diego. Swing by.
Cool.
That's
lovely. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I'm gonna take us out really quick with just a reminder. You can connect with Chris directly. You can obviously head to the Appcast website. You can connect with Chris directly on LinkedIn. We put that up a couple of times. Easy guy to find, and just a wealth of information. And then I'm going to remind everybody else to be sure to check out if you've got some leaders or folks within the TA space that are on the move. They're in transition. They've been displaced, and they're interested in strengthening that network and being part of a community. It's cxr.work/up. It is a complimentary full membership for folks who come in and are referred by alumni or our current members, and we do an interview with everybody to make sure, because you still got to qualify. We got a couple of rules for membership you still got to be okay with, but it's full membership for anybody who's in the middle of something, and we're carrying your membership 60 days into your new employment. So that'll help you. You can come in looking like a rock star using some of the resources in your first few meetings. So we're happy to help you with that. And with that, I guess we're going to say goodbye, and we'll see everybody next week.
Thanks so much, guys. Thanks,
everybody.
Thanks for listening to the CXR channel. Please subscribe to CXR on your favorite podcast resource and leave us a review while you're at it. Learn more about CXR at our website, cxr.works, facebook.com and twitter.com/careercrossroads, and on Instagram @careerxroads. We'll catch you next time.